Leicester seems to be the centre of the universe at the moment, and I thought I'd take a look at to see if there was any land not too far away from the Leicester City Football Club, see if we can find a reasonable family home not too far away. So I had a look at Rightmove earlier, and I found this building plots for a 4-bedroom detached house. Quite a nice looking house there. And if we scan through the pictures, we can see that it's actually the gardens of an existing building that's been subdivided down. So it's a fairly level plot there. If we take a look at its location, we can see that we're about 4.5 miles from the Leicester City Football Club. So on match days, we get on our bike and we can cycle there in about 25 minutes. Not too bad. This looks to be the location of the plot itself. That looks like to be the existing building, and so we assume that there is the building plot just adjacent there. So land access is fairly restricted. Looks like this is the parking here, so it could be that we may have to invest a little bit of extra money and maybe put in a tarmac road just up there on an incline. If we look at properties in the area, we can see that a 4-bedroom house within the location is going for 425, but there's a big spread of values going down to 240, and there's one there for 300,000. If we take a look at Rightmove, we've got the same property, the 425 there, and we've got a larger plot there as well, 6-bedroom house, which is not really useful for comparative purposes, but it's a good indication that property values do range up to a reasonably high level. So if we take a look at the development appraisal, and let's put in our details. So we've put the location there, the postcode, which is going to be useful for getting some comparable sold prices in the area, and the county obviously is Leicestershire, and that's going to be helpful for looking at local authority costs that we may have to incur. So we're looking at it's a detached house, and it's a medium, so it's a 4-bedroom, so it's a medium size 4-bedroom there. And if we look through, because we've got the postcode here, if we link through to some sold prices, we might be able to find some evidence there for any historical sales that we can use as comparables. So we can see this is our postcode, and we can see that the actual house, the actual address itself there, was a property that was bought and sold in 2007 for 300,000, which is not bad. That's quite a good, useful indicator actually. So in that time, if we allow for a little bit of price inflation, we could say that we are creeping up into the £300,000, potentially £300,000 mark. So what we'll do is we'll put this value there at we'll put in a 300,000 as a starting point, and we'll see how we go from there. So the next up is the timeline of the development overall. So we are now in May, and if we follow a typical timeline, we can see that we should be due to finish in about 2 years' time. So this does allow for some planning, which you may not need to worry about. So this development timeline will be reduced quite a lot actually by the time we scan through the different options that we have over the next few pages. So we don't need to worry about planning, and so that will speed up the timeline. And the development costs, this is the money that we need to finance the construction works and the fees. So we can leave that as is for now, and we can come back to that once we speak to a few lenders and maybe some finance brokers. Some costs, construction fees. We won't look at project management. We'll probably look at trying to manage it ourselves. It's a reasonably small plot, so it's probably manageable. Architectural plans, we'll need those because we have detailed planning, but we can still tailor the inside to suit our needs. Structural engineer, flat piece of land. We possibly will need to retain an engineer for advice on the adjacent foundations, the building that's adjacent, and also maybe look at how much work would be involved in putting in a little ramp on the front there so that we can park a couple of cars on an incline. Quantity surveyor, useful to hire a quantity surveyor to tell us about the construction contracts options that we've got, and maybe give us an idea of the plant and machinery that we're going to need, and maybe some of the materials. Everything else we'll just leave that as is, I think, and we'll scan through to local authority costs. Building regulation costs, yeah, we'll need to pay some building reg fees, and community infrastructure levy. This can be quite a big cost, so we have to be fairly careful here. So let's link through to the database for Leicestershire, and we'll try and find the charging authority, which I think is Charnwood. Yeah, and we're not showing up any costs here actually. Now that doesn't mean that there aren't any any community infrastructure levy costs. If we're building for ourselves, we may not have to incur it anyway. If we're building for profit, we may need to allow for that. So what we should really do is just link through to the local council there and see if there is any intention. Yeah, looks like there is an intention to introduce a community infrastructure levy for the area, but it hasn't been implemented as yet. So might be quite a timely purchase of the land before there is any community infrastructure levy put forward. Okay, the next set of costs are site surveys. Yeah, we'll definitely need a survey of the ground, although it's been used for gardens. We'll need to do a site investigation and maybe look at identifying where the utilities are for the adjacent property and also in the road. The existing building does give us hope that we don't need to do any detailed site investigation in terms of trial holes and doing a geological investigation. So we'll leave it as reasonable sort of desktop study type of activities. Construction costs, traditional brick and block. Let's go for a timber frame building in that location, and we'll look to do. Let's do a package build actually, design and build. And there aren't too many other options that we need to worry about here. So we're looking at about £1,000 a metre, £123,000 construction costs, which sounds about right actually. So I mean there are some other options that we could look into, but I'm trying to keep it reasonably bog standard. Let's look at the regional costs there. So put in these East Midlands, so that drops the construction costs down a little bit because the database prices are based on UK averages and we can adjust those for our location factors. Okay, so developers' profits at 15%, a £40,000 return on risk over a 18-month period, 2 years. Let's maybe push that up to about 20% and see how that affects things. Right, estate agency fees. So if we are building for profit, then we'll need to sell the property at the end of the process. If we keep it, then that's a straight saving for us. So we'll allow for estate agency fees, legal and conveyancing fees, yeah, land titles. So once we buy the land, this is to work out the actual costs of financing the land during the period that we have to own it, and then during the construction period. We'll leave those as they are, bog standard. And so these are the actual land purchase costs, so there's no stamp duty at these levels. legal fees to buy the land, some due diligence on the land itself. Yeah, that might be advisable given that it's an existing building next door to us. And once we've got the land itself, it now becomes our responsibility. So the first thing we're going to have to do is put up some fencing, and there might be some negotiations there and discussions with the existing landowner because it is their plot, so they should be fairly receptive, but we will need to put up some fencing. Okay, so this is our development appraisal here. So we're really looking at for £300,000 resale value for a 4-bedroom house. We're looking at a land value of about 70,000 if we are going to have a developer's profit of 20%. So the advert says offers over 100,000. So what I think we probably will need to do for this one is we'll need to do some detailed research on the estimated market value. So what I think we probably need to do is get on the phones and speak to some local estate agents and see what they think the value of the completed property could be, because what we are looking at is a resale value, needing to get a resale value in about 350,000. We could drop the developer's profits to 15%, but we are looking at a development period that is over a 2-year period. So even though it's got full planning permission and it's relatively low risk, we're not working for free, so we can either use that as our equity if we're going to live in the property, or that is our profit from doing all the hard work over a 2-year period. So 20%, I think we're happy with 20%. So this is down to the viability of this project is down to whether or not we can get the market value of 350 on completion. So if you looking to buy a family home, 25-minute walk cycle from Leicester City Football Club. Not a bad plot, not a bad little development option there, but the options that we've got mean that we have to do some negotiations on the resale value, try and get a good finish so we can get up to the 350 and maybe over 350 resale value, and a more detailed review of some of the costs. Okay, that's all for now.